Aloha! This picturesque video was shot for nature and Hawaii enthusiasts who want to recharge their batteries and enjoy the fantastic views. The road to Hana will take you away from the hustle and bustle of the city and give you unforgettable emotions. Turn your gray days into bright ones and learn a lot of interesting information while traveling along the ocean coast and the Hawaiian tropics. Take a break after a long day and feel inner peace. Welcome to the island of Maui and the most amazing and picturesque Hawaiian road. The road to Hana is not just a road, but one of the most popular attractions on the island of Maui, with a length of 52 kilometers. Despite the short mileage, the journey along it takes about 3 to 4 hours. The fact is that the road, only 2 lanes wide, winds among the lush mountain slopes and steep ocean coasts, turning into picturesque bridges and hiding in narrow tunnels. Often 2 lanes turn into a 1-lane road with 2-way traffic. The road has 600 bends and 54 bridges. Needless to say, the background of the trip is the stunning tropical landscape. More than 2 million tourists pass this road every year. The road to Hana is a must item in the plans of any tourist who wants to visit the island of Maui. We invite you to appreciate the diversity of the island's landscapes, across bridges and along bamboo groves, up the slopes, past fruit trees, and fabulous local vegetation. Apart from the breathtaking ocean landscapes, one of the most memorable aspects of a visit to Maui is the opportunity to learn about the rich Hawaiian culture. You can't say you've been to the Hawaiian Islands without experiencing their cultural heritage, whether through cuisine, dance, music, plants, language, legends, art, or local crafts. Native Hawaiian culture is located in the heart of the islands, and this makes Hawaii unique among other places in the world. The first Hawaiians came from the islands in the South Central Pacific around the 4th century, and by the 1700s, the Hawaiian population could reach 300,000 scattered across the islands. The islands were not affected by Western influence until the arrival of Captain James Cook, followed by missionaries in 1778. King Kamehameha I, a great warrior and diplomat, was the first king of Hawaii. He united all the islands under one kingdom in 1810 after many years of war. What makes Maui one of the most unique islands in Hawaii is its cultural composition. Most of the population is of mixed origin. The largest ethnic group on the island consists of Caucasians, followed by Filipinos, Japanese, and Hawaiians. Indigenous Hawaiians make up only a small percentage of the total population, with most Maui claiming Chinese, Korean, Puerto Rican, African, and Portuguese backgrounds. Hawaiians are known to be open and generous, and these traits are common to the indigenous people of Maui. Despite the differences, the people on the island respect each other and strive to live together in harmony. Different ethnic groups allow mixed marriages. The spirit of aloha is something that will always be revered on Maui. This applies to the relaxed attitude of Hawaiians, who accept everyone, remain devoted to customs, and maintain a positive attitude. One of the most enjoyable things about visiting Hawaii is discovering unconfirmed facts about Hawaii that distinguish this place from any other. For example, did you know that surfing was invented in Hawaii? Hundreds of years ago. And there's a lot of evidence that stand-up paddleboarding, which is hugely popular around the world, also originated here. Started in Waikiki a few decades ago. And now pay attention to the road. There are no billboards on Maui, only the road signs. So you have more view of the natural landscape. Hawaii is one of 4 states that have banned billboards, except for Vermont, Maine, and Alaska. Interestingly, the height of the walls and fences of local buildings cannot exceed 7 feet. There are also no private beaches in Maui, except for lands owned by the federal government. This means that no one can own a beach, and no one has a right to keep people away from it, including exclusive beach resorts. One of the main reasons for this law is to provide ocean access to Native Hawaiians so they can practice their traditions and lifestyle. Maui has 81 available beaches, including white, gold, black, and red sand. More than 10,000 humpback whales migrate to Hawaii from Alaska each year. They travel thousands of miles to mate and give birth. And this is confirmed information because whales can be counted by their tails. Like a human fingerprint, each whale's tail is unique. There are so many things that make Maui special, including the world's largest dormant volcano, Hale'ekala, standing over 10,023 feet above sea level, and also one of the world's largest banyan trees that is 60 feet high and covers an entire city block. But the road to HANNA remains the most popular in all Hawaii tourist guides. Well, 600 bends will take you through the lush jungle and countless cascading waterfalls. Such a trip is an unforgettable adventure. Maui did not need any roads in the distant past. At a time when chiefs ruled on the island, the land was divided into tracts called Ahupua'a and went from the mountains to the ocean. So the islanders traveled by canoe from one beach to another. The first footpath on Maui from one village to another was known as the Royal Trail. It was created in the 14th century at the behest of the ruling leader, Piilani, who wanted to travel from village to village on foot. The Royal Trail united the villages and chiefs on the island, and Maui became one of the most powerful islands in the group of Hawaiian islands. So it was the beginning of a road system. The first modern roads in Maui began to be built around the late 1800s. Many of these early roads led to various plantations in the city of Hana, where sugar, rubber, pineapple, and wheat production flourished. In 1849, George Wilfong opened the first sugarcane factory in Hana, and shortly afterward, King Kalakaua signed an agreement on duty-free sugar imports to the United States. Thanks to the treaty, the number of sugar plantations in Hana increased to 6 over the following years. At that time, the problem was the lack of reliable roads to transport workers to Hana and transport goods from the city's prosperous plantations. The Hana Highway was not mapped, built, and paved overnight. It happened in stages. Initially, a complex system of canals was built to transport water from eastern Maui to Hana to irrigate various plantations. The construction of the canals led to an influx of Chinese immigrant workers and prompted the first department store in Kianai, a nearby coastal town. Now traffic from Pai to Hana was daily, and there was a population that could feed themselves, which meant that a permanent route could be built and maintained. Then, in the early 1900s, a prison was built in Kianai. During that period, the prisoners began to build the road. The Hana Highway was paved in 1962. Today, it is primarily a tourist attraction and a means of getting around from one part of the island to another for locals. Nowadays, the Hana Highway is a 68-mile-long stretch of Hawaii State Routes 36 and 360, connecting Kahului in East Maui to Hana. The lush nature and single-lane bridges on the highway have made the road a famous attraction for visitors. Interestingly, all but one of the original bridges are still in place. Only one was so damaged by erosion that it had to be replaced by a steel bridge brought by the U.S. Army Engineering. There are many interesting places along the Hana Highway. This is easy to see by the large concentration of cars on both sides of the road. Among the historically significant places in this region, the Hana Cultural Center is considered one of the oldest buildings on Maui. The city of Kan also has a replica of an ancient Hawaiian residential complex, giving visitors a glimpse into this Hawaiian life of previous generations. Also nearby Hana, there is the birthplace of one of Hawaii's most famous women, Queen Kahuman, the wife of Hawaii's first ruling monarch, King Kamehameha I. Another popular historical site is the home and tomb of American aviator Charles Lindbergh, considered a flight hero. In many ways, the history of Hana Highway, built, maintained, and used by Maui's early inhabitants of all ethnicities and walks of life, reflects the history of the most multicultural Hawaii. The history of the road to Hana reminds us that it is more than a beautiful scenic route. Here, you will not only see historical sites, but enjoy countless spectacular waterfalls, trails, and tropical gardens. The road to Hana is more about the journey than the destination. There is much to do along the way. Enjoy the scent of ginger and guava in the air, and the lush tropical landscape that boasts spectacular waterfalls, emerald pools, and postcard-perfect beaches. What is worth seeing on this famous Hawaiian road? We have selected for you the most significant points to stop on the way to Hana. It is worth mentioning Ho'okipa Beach Park, the most legendary beaches in Hawaii. It is located about 9 miles from the historic Hana Highway, between the city of Paia and the center of Haiku. It is recognized worldwide as it is one of the most popular beaches on the planet for water sports, surfing, windsurfing, kiteboarding, and rowing. The beach park offers more than just exotic beauty and an amazing atmosphere. Here, you will find a beach bay with many surfing spots and places to relax under the glorious Maui sun. Recently, Ho'okipa has gained popularity due to the migration of Hawaiian green sea turtles. If you visit Ho'okipa Beach to see Maui turtles, stay at least 10 feet away and don't touch or disturb these amazing sea creatures. This place attracts a lot of attention because the reef system that stretches all over the bay allows you to master the beautiful waves. Steady winds on the North Shore make it a world-famous place for windsurfing. Ho'okipa means hospitality, but don't let that fool you. This place is not an open invitation to anyone for rowing. Yes, on the shores of this park, you will get a place in the front row for some of the best kite surfing and windsurfing tricks on the island. However, if you are not a professional, do not surf here. Such waves are not for beginners. If you decide to sit aside and watch the action, there are picnic tables and an observation deck. This beach is not popular as a bathing beach, so do not plan to relax here in the ocean. This beach is all about action and daring surfboard tricks. Definitely worth a stop on your way to HANNA, especially if you have practiced water sports before. The Garden of Eden Arboretum and Botanical Garden, popular among tourists, looks like a real earthly paradise with a wide variety of tropical flora, more than 500 plant species. Here, among the luxurious nature, the initial episodes of the film Jurassic Park were filmed. If you decide that you don't want to pay the $20 entrance fee, and $10 for kids, because there's so much tropical beauty on this Maui road that you can get for free, then you're very wrong. The Garden of Eden Arboretum is a 26-acre tropical wonderland with 2.5 miles of trails and over 700 botanical specimens. The Garden of Eden Arboretum is the vision and creation of Alan Bradbury, Maui's first ISA-certified arborist and landscape designer. Development of this special North Shore rainforest property began in 1991 and opened to the public in 1996. The goal is to help restore natural ecosystems and promote Hawaii's native and indigenous species. It features many exotic plants and trees from all over the tropical and subtropical regions of the world. The creators of the park have paid great attention to the development of each trail, 2.5 miles in total, its improvement, and planting to assure the most natural enhancement of this uniquely beautiful Hana District property. This beautification project was developed entirely out of pocket. There has never been any state or federal funding of any kind. Interestingly, this land was originally purchased to build premises for a recording studio. a place where musicians could come, relax, and wander between recording sessions. It did not take long to realize that the amount of salt in the air, along with high humidity, would have a detrimental effect on the recording equipment. Seeing tools rust overnight and other electronics fail prematurely, it was determined that this land must be used for another purpose. At this point, owner Alan Bradbury already had a history of developing parks and recreational areas, including Telluride, Colorado's Municipal Park, and noticed that every time the front gate was left open, curious tourists would drive in. In the formative years, the biggest expense was gravel and road base, only to have one heavy rainfall wash it all away. It staggers the mind to know how much gravel it took to stabilize the roads, trails, and parking areas here in this rainforest environment. In the beginning, there were no roads, trails, buildings, or exotic plantings, just dense, highly invasive jungle. Initially, the park was called Puanani, or Flower from Heaven Tree Farm. So many people began using the Garden of Eden name that it stuck. With the addition of Arboretum, the name was born. Take a map at the entrance and take a walk along the trails to see the endangered deciduous trees and tropical nuts, the bamboo garden, and one of Hawaii's oldest mango trees. The garden has over 500 botanically stamped plants, including a huge collection of plants used by the Hawaiians for rituals and ceremonies. There are even medicinal plants and fruits from the Amazon rainforest. Follow the trail to the waterfall for a bird's-eye view of Upper Puahokamoa Falls. Nearby, you can recognize the Keopuka Rock from the opening scene of the dinosaur movie Jurassic Park. You will be able to observe birds and animals such as peacocks, chickens, lizards, ducks, and geese. Stop by the art gallery to see paintings and crafts by local artists. Spend your time walking around the territory, and then have a drink at the Garden Cafe. There are many stops along the road to Hana to compete for your time and attention, but this one is very worthy. One of the great things about traveling to Hana is that you will never be hungry. After all, there are many fantastic roadside shops along the way where you can stop for a snack. One of the stands worth your stop is Uelo Lookout, where everything comes from their farm and they have fresh local fruit, fantastic homemade cakes, acai bowls, fresh pancakes, and organic cocktails sweetened with local sugar cane. One of the most popular local treats at roadside grocery stores is coconut candy, sold in a small bag that is perfect for keeping in your car. And if you want a very unusual drink, try iced coffee mixed with coconut ice cream. You are less likely to find local exotics on supermarket shelves than at these grocery stores. Here you can find passion fruit, guava, or the most delicious little bananas. The latter, by the way, can be pulled free of charge from palm trees along the road. So you can save on bananas. The same story with guava. It grows almost everywhere like grass. There is especially a lot of it on hiking trails, where, falling from trees, it quickly begins to rot, creating a persistent aroma of rue among the wild jungle. In general, the variety is so great that life will not be enough to try all the fruit that grows and bears fruit here. You can find several types of mangoes in roadside fruit caresses. Of all, a fruit with a red-green peel should be distinguished. Hayden mango. This mango has a very pronounced sour taste, which makes it very refreshing. It is also nice that the bone is not so large. Other mangoes are quite similar in taste and not at all similar to those bought in a store on the mainland, even in the subtropical state. Some varieties of mango can be eaten with the skin on and are so juicy that the juice flows down the cheeks and chin. Another popular fruit is the oia'ai, or the mountain apple. This plant was brought by Polynesians to the Hawaiian Islands 15 centuries ago and has become symbolic. Many large companies in the state use its name for brands. Hawaii's biggest music label is also called Mountain Apple. It is believed that tall ohia'ai trees keep clouds above the island, which means healing moisture and coolness. The fruit is sour, slightly crunchy, and very juicy. But undoubtedly, the king among Hawaiian fruits is the pineapple. Pineapples have indeed been a symbol of Hawaii for a long time, but they are native to South America and are associated with Hawaii through a well-developed pineapple industry from the early 1900s. Pineapples have proven to be an extremely good fruit for long voyages, as they, like oranges, help prevent the often deadly scurvy. In all likelihood, the first pineapples arrived in Hawaii along with the European visitors. The first documented mention of these early visits was by the Spaniards in the 16th century, more than 2 centuries before the arrival of Captain James Cook. Since pineapples were such a popular fruit to take on long transatlantic voyages, any ship arriving in Hawaii may have brought some of these fruits along with them. After their first arrival, it took them a while to become the great success they are now. 2 technologies were essential for the pineapple's success in Hawaii. The first one is the development of ocean steamers, which made the transport of perishable fruits viable. The second one was the development of canning. Canning made it easy to harvest the pineapples ripe and preserve their great taste for customers all over the world. The first steps into the commercialization of pineapples were taken in the 1880s, but things really picked up after James Drummond Dole entered the pineapple world in 1903. By the early 1960s, Hawaii supplied over 80% of the world's canned pineapple production. However, this golden period did not last long. Growing pineapples has become cheaper in other countries. Today, 75% of the world's pineapples come from Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines. Hawaii now produces only 2% of all pineapples. Have you ever wondered if pizza in Hawaii comes from Hawaii? This question can spark a heated debate among Hawaiians. They will almost certainly deny any connection. But is this the truth? Hawaiian pizza is a pizza with cheese, tomatoes, ham, and pineapples. It is the most popular pizza in Australia, about 15% of all pizzas sold there, but has very little to do with the Hawaiian Islands. The precursor of the Hawaiian pizza is said to be the toast Hawaii, a sandwich made with a slice of toast covered by a slice of ham and cheese below a slice of pineapple with a cherry in the middle, which is then grilled. This sandwich is attributed to the German TV cook Clemens Willenrod. Hawaii, in the name for this toast, obviously comes from the use of pineapple, which was then already associated with Hawaii. We will definitely return to Hawaiian goodies, but it's time for the next stop on the way to Hana. The road to Hana's Rainbow Eucalyptus Grove is a little-known gem that only receives a handful of visitors each day. To those that do not know of its existence, the grove is easy to miss. It doesn't have a signpost, isn't marked on maps, and has no attached parking area. As a result, tourists traveling the famous coastal route often miss it on their way to other more popular destinations. Despite its absence on most Maui routes, the Painted Forest is the largest and most accessible rainbow eucalyptus grove on Maui. It is located near mile marker 7 along the Hana Highway. Scientifically known as Eucalyptus deglupta, the tree is more commonly known as the rainbow eucalyptus or the Mindanao gum. The multicolored streaks on their trunks come from patches of shedding bark. When the outer bark sheds, it reveals bright green inner bark. This young bark subsequently darkens and matures into various shades of pink, orange, yellow, and purple. Each tree displays a rainbow of colors because the layers of bark peel at different times. The trees in the eucalyptus grove look like an impressionistic painting, decorated with colorful brushstrokes. The grove is a photographer's dream, an artist's inspiration. If there is space available to pull off to the side of the road, the rainbow forest should not be missed. Hawaii is known for its floral splendor and diversity of flora. The best way to get acquainted with the plant exotics is on the island of Maui, a true botanical paradise. Driving along the road, you will see colorful bougainvillea and hibiscus. On Maui, tropical exotics from around the world mix freely with 24 Polynesian plants that have preserved ancient Hawaiian culture. About 1,000 species of these plants are found nowhere else on Earth, and about 10% of these species are native to Hawaii. Unfortunately, there are also over 900 species, or 44% of plants, of naturalized plants. many of which harm native plants by replacing or crowding them out. A few miles after the Eden Arboretum, you can drive to the Kianai Peninsula. It is a tiny town with only a few buildings, but it is worth a visit because of the beautiful view of Maui's North Shore. Driving up to Kianai, you will notice jagged black rocks along the coast. They look stunning against the background of bright blue water. Since the rocky shore is very dangerous, it is forbidden to swim on the Kianai Peninsula. However, you can have a drink or a snack in the city and enjoy the views. This unsuspecting stop is known not only for its favorite landscapes, but also for its extraordinary history. The Kianai Peninsula was created from a huge lava flow coming from the Haleakala crater. Centuries ago, Hawaiians manually removed the earth from the mountains to create the Kianai Peninsula. Their amazing display of physical labor is a testament to how revered this land is in Hawaiian culture. However, the village has a tragic history. The tsunami of 1946. Unfortunately, a school was in session at the time the tsunami hit. The 24 students and teachers died inside, which was a huge blow for such a tiny town. The only remaining building is an old stone church that was built in 1856, which you can still see in the town today. Admire the local beauty and be sure to try one of Maui's most popular delicacies, banana bread. Kianai is home to a very tasty banana bread, which perfectly complements the variety of tropical fruits. The history of banana bread in the United States dates back to the 1930s, when commercially available baking soda and baking powder made it very easy to create this unleavened bread. Bananas first arrived in the United States in the 1870s, but were very expensive and mainly used as a dessert ingredient. We know that bananas spread around the world from Southeast Asia starting in the 4th century BC. They were propagated in the tropical climates of the world, including Polynesia, and eventually making their way to Hawaii. This means the history of bananas in Hawaii is also ancient. In their book, The World of Hawaiian Bananas, Then and Now, published in 2011, authors Angela Kepler and Frank Rust discovered through 8 years of research that bananas and coconuts were brought to Hawaii by the ancient Polynesian travelers between 200 AD and 1350 AD. These ancient strains still survive in the deep jungles of the islands. Through aerial surveys, 19 types of ancient Hawaiian bananas have been found growing in small groves high in secluded mountain valleys of every island. It is thought that these could have been planted by banished communities of ancient Hawaiians. Imagine how long bananas have been grown in Hana. By all accounts, it's possible that this wonderful fruit has been planted here for over 1,000 years. No wonder they have a flavor all their own. Banana bread is just one of those things most people will eat their entire lives. But I will say this, you have not had the world's best banana bread until you have had some in Hawaii. Specifically, banana bread from Maui's road to Hana. Why? If you live in Maui and have a banana tree on your property, You will need to do something with more than 40 pounds of bananas when they'll be ripe. There are two main varieties of these short, fat, and sweet bananas that are grown on the island. Both are excellent, and it's up to debate which is better. Dwarf Brazilians, which are slightly pink inside, and a Chinese variety called Dwarf Cavendish, featuring white meat, make up the bulk of Maui's dessert bananas grown today. Bananas grow best in areas with 100 inches of rain per year. HANNA is such an area. It's another reason the banana bread along this road has such a moist and silky texture. On the road to HANNA, you will be lucky to meet roadside stands or stands just in the back of trucks. The locals are experienced bakers and offer different flavors of banana bread. You just need to enjoy the views and fragrant local pastries. No recipe outside of Hawaii compares to the local one. It is not for nothing to say that in our local supermarkets, bananas are not as sweet as you can find in Hawaii. Interestingly, the banana bread is packaged up in a way that makes it easy to bring home as a souvenir. Definitely pick up a few, because once you've tried it, you will eat the entire loaf. People across the world are lured to HANNA, if for nothing else, than its wealth of waterfalls. Some waterfalls require some serious trekking to discover, while others, like Upper Oaikani Waterfall, seem generously positioned for visitors seeking to enjoy the beauty of HANNA. Located just beyond mile marker 19 on the HANNA Road, Upper Oaikani Falls is often referred to as Three Bears, thanks to the separate but parallel falls of differing lengths. Upper Waikani Falls cascade from a height of 70 feet to Wailua Nui Stream down below. Only its splash makes all ordinary drivers stop and take pictures. So travelers on the highway get acquainted with one of the most popular waterfalls in the Hawaiian Islands. Most visitors, however, choose to view Upper Waikani Falls from the comfort of their cars or at the edge of the bridge above it, in large part due to the lack of parking spaces. If you're ready for an adventure, don't let the tightly packed cars fool you. Approximately a tenth of a mile ahead, you'll find additional spaces to pull in. Drive carefully as you go to the bridge. The road to HANNA is narrow by nature and thin near these falls. Underneath the bridge on the ocean side of Hana Highway, you'll find a moderate trail that will lead to the fall's crystalline waters. The jungle here is lush and seductive. While the surplus of water and surrounding leaves in this area is largely dependent on rainfall and irrigation matters, the fertile greenery will doubtlessly enchant you, no matter the time of year. Part of the foliage that surrounds the falls is red torch ginger, a glossy-petaled perennial that's prevalent throughout Hawaii. As with most of HANNA's natural wonders, this brand of ginger is really special because of some stems stretching up to 15 feet towards the sky. The local hapu'u is a historically significant velvet plant that was commercially used in the 1800s to stuff pillows. It also grows here in abundance. Indeed, this is impressive territory on a magnificent road. So magnificent, in fact, that Bill Clinton named Hana Highway a Millennium Legacy Trail in 2000. Today, the region remains largely untouched, with a large portion of its areas displaying the rainforest richness. The road to Hana is so famous among tourists that sometimes traffic jams can occur here. If you'd like a bit more guidance during your Road to Hana drive, or don't want to map everything out yourself, consider downloading auxiliary apps. Now a large number of applications have GPS tracking, and Link provides valuable information about all your stops along the route. Travel is not only beautiful, but useful. It is impossible not to mention the Wainapa State Park in the Hana region, famous for its black sand beach. The name Wainapa means glistening water. And while it easily could refer to the beautiful ocean views that grace this area, the Hawaiian word specifically applies only to freshwater. One scholar of Hawaiian history writes that it refers to a specific spot within a nearby stream where the features of the stream cause sunlight to reflect in such a way that there is an unusual glistening effect. Others believe it refers to the crystal clear waters in the ankyline pools found in the park's caverns. But whatever you call it, there is no lack of glistening water in Wainapa. Do you know what an ankyline pool means? It is a landlocked body of water with an underground connection to the ocean. Typically, water near the surface is freshwater, becoming brackish with depth as salt water intrudes from the ocean connection at sea level. In Hawaii, the pools are home to opeula, a native shrimp. They reproduce in the underground part of the pool. Unbelievably, opeula can live for as long as 20 years in captivity. And since they are very easy to care for, they are popular pets sold in pet stores all over Hawaii. Due to their largely subterranean life, it is unknown how long they live in their natural habitat. You'll find the black sand beach at Wainapa State Park on every single Road to Hana guide. And for good reason. It's one of the best stops on the Road to Hana. It offers nearly 360-degree stunning panoramic views. The black sand beach is a place that will remain in your memory long after leaving, and one you will hope to return to in the future. It's not just the black sand that makes it remarkable. It's the black sand against the background of turquoise waters and green vegetation that creates a picture-perfect, colorful setting. Make your way down to enjoy a dip in the water. Take a short hike to the top of the point for a bird's-eye view of the rolling waters. Explore the caves. Head to the big black rocks to catch some rays. And take a moment to breathe it all in. This hidden cove is a memorable and beautiful experience. Make sure to start your Hana Road journey early and get here in the morning. It's a very popular stop and gets very crowded around lunchtime. At mile marker 42, towards the end of the Road to Hana, is the Pippi Y Trail, one of the most impressive sights on the entire island of Maui. This trail has an incredible stretch of hiking through a dense bamboo forest and ends with the stunning 400-foot towering Oaimoku Falls. The Pippi Y Trail is just under 2 miles in length and is relatively flat, making this a trail that almost anyone can conquer. After a half-mile or so, you'll come to a huge banyan tree that would be the crown jewel on most hiking trails. Continuing on, about halfway through the hike, you'll enter a thick, dense bamboo forest. There is a boardwalk through the forest, so you won't have to fight any bamboo. You can take a leisurely stroll admiring the height and quantity of bamboo trees all around you. At the end of your nearly 2-mile hike, you'll emerge from the bamboo forest under a high cliff. Under that cliff flows one of the largest waterfalls in Hawaii, Oaimoku Falls. At over 400 feet tall, this enormous waterfall is truly a sight to behold, and will be the cherry on top of your HANNA road adventure. An interesting fact about Oaimoku Falls is that it can double and even triple in size after a heavy rain, as water makes its way from the mountain top down towards the ocean. All in all, the Pippi Y Trail is a wonderful experience, full of amazing sights for you to see. In 3 miles, you will find one of the best stops on the road to HANNA, if not the most beautiful, Wailua Falls. You don't even need to exit your vehicle to see it. Wailua Falls is said to be the most photographed waterfall on the HANNA road. This waterfall elegantly cascades 80 feet down the rocky cliff behind. You will be charmed by the tranquility of this spot. If you're in the mood for a dip, you can trek down to the lovely pool below the falls. This unforgettable experience is filled with unreal scenery. It is in such places that you can experience the wild side of Maui. Exploring in a car in Maui has a certain level of stress. The narrow roads often have little or hard-to-understand signage. Intermittent Wi-Fi and cell reception mingle with the often chaotic traffic. Locals commuting to and from work with thousands of lost tourists can make driving in Maui stressful. The roads have improved a lot over the last few years. The divided 4-lane expansion of Mokuleke Highway between Kahului and Kihei was completed in 2008. And in 2012, the first Maui roundabout was built in Kihei. These are much-needed upgrades for sure, but the best advice when driving on Maui is to leave early, be patient, slow down, and use the shaka. For the residents, this hand symbol is used for everything from lane mergers to stop signs. Those who live here know that the road to HANNA is not just a road with great views. The road to HANNA is a journey to old Hawaii. It's a lifestyle that is centuries old. It has quite modern attributes if you know where to look. For all of us who live on the island, HANNA is a heavenly place to recharge and relax. But few wish to drive it themselves. A winding road that narrows to 1 lane along cliffs, and the travelers not sure where they're going or stopping in the middle of the road for photos can become a real mess of a road trip. The road is paved and generally in good condition, but there are wet areas not only from the waterfalls, but also from the usual heavy rains that Hawaii is famous for. If you drive your own car, it is useful to know HANNA's etiquette. For example, always remember to skip the car. This road is a lifeline for the community. So stop and give way to the local people who live and work in Hana. Another problem on this road is that it is difficult to determine where to stop because of the great number of views. Should we stop at this waterfall or beach or overlook or fruit stand or just keep going to the next one? Sure, you can use apps, maps, and offline guides, but then it will be easy to get distracted by all that stuff. Until you have driven the road to Hana a few times, it's hard to know where to stop and how much time to allow for a particular stop. If time is limited, you could end up driving back on this winding jungle road in the dark. Therefore, we encourage you to get acquainted with and plan your route in advance.